our panel. First of all, the writer and director of the film, Christine Swanson. Her earlier films as director include the Clark Sisters, First Ladies of Gospel, For the Love of Ruth, All About You, and then the great star of the movie, Lynn Whitfield. She worked in theater, television, and film, won an Emmy for portraying Josephine Baker in the Josephine Baker Story. Other TV credits include The Chai, Greenleaf, Without a Trace, Boston Public, Hill Street Blues going back, and many TV movies also. And her feature films include Amadeus, Family Reunion, Eve's Bayou. So really a great career, and this is, I think, an outstanding performance in this movie. Christine, maybe ask you, what was the inspiration for the story? Come out of anything personal?
Yes, 25 years ago, I did a feature film called All About You that starred Renee Goldsberry, and she was playing opposite Debbie Allen, and I just saw two intergenerational Black women just taking up space, and I thought I'd never seen that before in an interesting way. So I just kind of mined the idea that, oh, this would be an interesting movie. Maybe I can make it a road trip, and maybe I can add snow. So I wanted to do Thelma and Louise meets Terms of Endearment meets Fargo. So that's Albany Road. And then many years later, my husband's mom passed away from breast cancer, and she didn't tell us a lot, and we didn't discover anything until the very end. So I just merged those two ideas, and I wanted to do it in the form of a romantic comedy.
Right. And how did you put together all the people? How did you come to Lynn, as well as a very strong ensemble cast?
Lynn, you tell that story. How did Lynn come to this project?
Right.
Well, tell a real story? No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell the truth.
Okay, I wasn't the first choice.
What?
It wasn't that I wasn't the first choice. She just didn't think of me. Because I think she thought of me, sashaying around in stilettos and being glamorous and being, so I don't think she thought of me. But, as fate would have it, when I was suggested to her and we decided we would have a conversation to talk about it, whether we had a meeting of the minds, it was a week after my brother passed. And so when I read the script and saw that it had substance and saw that it had comedy, that it was a light touch, I said, well, this could be really good. So we talked, and I asked her, I said, okay, do you promise me you won't make it corny? Like kind of sappy, like too. And as we talked about it, I realized that she had a very creative view of it, and that she really was very collaborative with artists and comfortable in her own skin. And as an artist, I'm pretty comfortable in mine. So that meant that we could create this environment to, bring Paula to life.
And did you enjoy acting with the other people, with Renee?
Oh, so much.
The cast?
So much. The first scene we shot was the table scene that I was in. And so all of the characters were so clearly in their skin. Yeah. Joe Holt, how often do we see a backwoodsman, kind of weed grower? And he was just smack dab in the middle of it from the moment he came on. And not to mention, what I always call him, The Amish couple, they came in and they were perfect. They sang the song there. There was no pre-recording or anything. Everybody was in their character's skin from the beginning. So it was so much fun.
Right. So I have to ask, where did you find that great house?
We were in Champaign, Illinois. We shot the whole movie in the state of Illinois because we needed snow. And the tax credits are great in Illinois. So we actually shot in freezing temperatures. And this is what I have to say about Lynn Whitfield. We shot this movie in 23 days. And I direct a lot of television, so I work at breakneck speed. If I do more than 2 takes, we have a problem. And so we're moving so fast. And I'm like, Lynn, we gotta do this. You gotta jump over this. She has to climb over the car. She just did it, didn't complain about anything. And I was always apologizing, like, I'm sorry we don't have this or that. And she said, she would always say, I know what this is. Let's just get to work. And that's what it was like every day, like working with a pro of her caliber. Other actors like genuflecting at Lynn's feet, but she wouldn't have any of that. She was just kind of like, hey, we're all in this together, let's make a great movie. So that she just set the tone for the rest of the shoot.
Right. So the first part of the movie is mainly the two actresses. There's quite a bit of time on the two of them. Was that scripted exactly as we see it? Did they do any improvising?
Most of it was scripted.
Mostly everything that we did in the car on the road trip was scripted.
Right.
But we found our rhythm. Renee, it was so easy for us to work together. And Christine wrote most of it. We didn't improvise most of the script.
Right.
But
it felt like we did, though.
What the moments that they took to just again own their spaces, I caught that, and because they gave that to me, I lingered on it, and I couldn't look away. So you'll see the camera just stay on these guys.
Yes.
Right?
Which is rare these days.
Right.
That people aren't sort of speeding you along, like get the lines out and on to the next. Like she gave us the space to behave. So it wasn't just about speaking the lines, line cut, line. She allowed us the space and the time to behave, and to feel. The wonderful director you are.
Right.
Well, when the actors give you moments, is you can't look away, and even while editing, because the film has a long running time for a black movie, and I was told to cut down some of the driving sequences, just get to the cabin so we can laugh, and it was the whole road trip was a setup for everything that happened in the cabin, and it was purposeful in the slow burn feel of it.
Yeah.
And I just really wanted to stay there with these two women as they grappled with each other on the road to reconciliation. So that takes time to build up. So I loved every second of Renee and Lynn interacting. Like, there's 20 minutes of that I cut out.
Really? Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of scenes
the kind of caper thing.
Yeah, like I was doing an homage to the Coen brothers. So there's an element of
that, yes.
There's an element of at a certain point when you're editing, it was like I couldn't do it all. So the story shaped the emotions, and then their performances, as you see it, is where the story lies.
What were the biggest challenges in terms of telling the story and bringing it to the conclusion that you wanted? Were there things in the script that gave you problems that you struggled with?
This is the
Oh,
folks,
you're talking to me?
folks
Either of you. No, I'm more for Christine, I think.
Well, I struggle with the idea of my own mortality, so that was very frightening for me.
Right.
It was why I didn't think. I mean, what can I tell you? I'd like to live to be 110, 20, 30, you know. The idea of dying and the unknown is very frightening for me. So I grappled with that and finding my way to make the journey. So in that, I found dignity in Paula's spirit. I found that, you know, she wanted to get on with it, you know, and finding that place in me to not romanticize death, to not be sad, for Lynn not to be sad about the arc of this character, right? And it sort of culminated with the one full improvisation that I had, which was the scene in the mirror. So the scene was actually written to do what?
There was no, she had no dialogue or lines. It was just actions. She takes off her wig, she unrobes, and while we were shooting that scene, I mean, it's the great Lynn Whitfield. It was like, Lynn, take this time for your character to talk to herself. That's about all I told her to do. And then I ran away.
Well, and then I had this idea that the intimacy of a woman who has been ravaged by something and gone through that, what kind of conversation does she have with herself? And it can't all be sad. I felt like exploring the ideas that that she wasn't sick anymore. You know, so looking at herself and like forgetting that she didn't, whatever that thing is when you still think you have your arm and you, yes. And it was like, what happens if she just loses, she doesn't feel sorry for herself. It takes another journey, and I didn't know what that journey would be. And I just did this improvisation that went where it went, and she just let it keep going until I finally said, okay, Christine, like, yo, that's all I got. I don't know. I'm just like, what, we're about to
It was
repeat
hard
ourselves.
to stop. It was hard to stop that scene.
But in that, I found that dignity, and I found her humor, and I found her, you know, her love of herself and acceptance of herself, and patting herself on the back that she's taking this journey without self-pity.
Right. So, you know, she's not always the most sympathetic character. There's parts of the film early on where you're not sure if you're really fond of her. I mean, was that fun to play? Did you have, some actors don't like to appear unsympathetic ever,
Oh,
but
no,
did you
it was
enjoy
great fun. It was great fun to play. Because, I mean, we're not all lovable all the time. I mean, many of us are not. And, you know, it all gets informed later of what was going on with her. But yeah, she'd gotten a thicker skin and toughed up, you know, and no, she had no patience. Right. She was going home. The doctors told her that she had to go home and get ready and prepare to, but nobody knows that in the beginning of the film. It's like let's get on with it. What? I mean, she didn't have too much sympathy for anyone else either.
Right. No, the way she treated the other people.
Oh, it was awful. I did not, listen, I spoke what was written. Don't hold it against me, little Liddy, please.
The characters, they have to have someplace to go. And in many ways, she grew right in front of us. So we needed to give her that space
Yes.
to develop.
So Christine, your company is called Faith-Based Films. I want to ask you a little about what the significance of that. We think of, those films, there's a whole genre that are very sometimes treacly, very devout, religious films. I didn't see that in this movie, but why? How would you describe it as a faith-based film?
Well, first of all, the name of our company is called Faith Film Works. My husband and I, Michael Swanson, raise your hand.
Oh, yeah.
He's the producer of the film. We really came up with that name as a basis for to ground us in terms of what we were about to get into in this business. So we're like, it's going to take a lot of faith for us to just be somebody in this business. So that was the idea. Didn't understand that we had to grow into that name for longevity's sake. My goodness, it took faith and grit and getting knocked down and getting back up again. So that's really a testament to the journey that we're on. I'm particularly not fond of faith-based films at all. Like, I cannot stand them. So I think I subconsciously decided to do a faith-based film that wasn't a faith-based film, that was a faith-based film that wasn't. And in a way to show that you can tell a compelling story without knocking people over the head with Pollyannish sentiments.
Right. So what's the plan now for bringing the film to audiences? And Lynn, you're going to participate in some of the promotion, I imagine.
Oh, absolutely. I will do whatever I can to amplify this piece. Christine and Michael, they've been making movies together since they were 17, 18. They've been making independent film. And Christine will fill you in on more, but I have such respect and regard for them, for believing in their story, for believing in themselves, and therefore financing this entire project themselves, which we know very rarely happens. So I will publicize it in any way I can and amplify the story and get people into AMC theaters select theaters starting November 15th in cities. Please check it out, find out where it is, and spread the word, and we're hoping that it can go through the holidays and everything, and with your help and sharing about the story, about the film. Hopefully, people will be in those theaters.
Right.
We just flew into LA. We were in New York. Lynn and Renee did the Sherry Shepherd show, and we finished taping the show, hopped on a plane, and we didn't get to watch this movie with you guys because we just got here. And this is a testament to Lynn Whitfield. And honestly, just her standing with us is encouragement to know that, because she's a veteran in this industry, right? Let me just say this. Lynn, all my actors, but this is Lynn Whitfield, right? I paid her scale.
So
That's essentially minimum wage to do this movie. And she won't let me pay for her flight. She won't let me pay for her glam squad. She's like, you guys have put too much money into this. Don't worry about it. Let's just keep going and promote it. We want the world to see it. And to have been in this industry for as long as we have, and to see this kind of generosity, I just haven't felt it in a while. But I feel like we just kind of converged at a right time where I think, creatively speaking, we're energized to do some great things. And turns out there are actors who are waiting for great scripts. And so it just makes you excited about, so don't worry about us that we just spent a lot of money putting, making an independent film. We have 4 kids.
One of two.
2 are here, and all 4 of them worked on the film.
Yes.
It's the family business. Nobody in Hollywood wanted to make this movie. I shopped it around, and I told them, I said, this is a hit movie, trust me. And I could not get anybody to get behind it. And even after we made it, we've won like 4 or 5 Best Feature Film Awards at various festivals. We could not get anyone to distribute it. And we take it straight to streamers, or we self-distribute it. So my husband took it to AMC Theaters, and AMC Theaters actually thanked us for bringing them this film because they thought it would do well in their theaters. And so we're rolling it out for the holiday season, and we'll see what happens.
And you're going to a number of different cities too?
So we were just talking. A year ago, we did a 14-city marketing tour with a rough cut of this film. So before we even shopped it to Hollywood, we took it to the people. And we screened it like this. So we'll find a theater by word of mouth, we'll fill it up, and then by the end of the movie, we put a QR code. And people would take a survey based on the QR code and kind of tell us, like, hey, would you want to watch this through a streamer, or would you go to theaters? And overwhelmingly, people were saying, I want to see this in theaters, and I'll bring 100 of my friends. So that kind of encouraged us to go the theatrical route. And if you guys, did you feel the energy of the communal experience that you have in a theater that we used to have before COVID? Yeah. We missed that. We missed that. And
I remember the Roger Ebert screening, which we got a thumbs up from Roger Ebert.
Yes, we did, from the festival.
From the festival. We had, it's so beautiful.
They give us a 10-pound trophy.
It's so beautiful.
Of Roger's thumb.
And that was one of the of Roger's thumb, and that was one of the early screenings, and it was packed, like 600 people, something like that,
White people.
Oh. All right. Well, yes. Okay. 600 white people.
The reason why that's important is 600 white people in Illinois gave us 2 standing ovations.
Yes, they
Gave
did.
Lynn a standing ovation. And something told me back then, I'm like, oh my gosh, white people love this? And I only say that because sometimes I'm intentional about making stories about Black people. What I want to do is make the stories universal in scope, so it doesn't. I can make the same movie with Chinese people, and it would work exactly the same. That's, to me, that is the height of storytelling when it comes to art images, is when it doesn't have to be relegated to the ghettos of storytelling. So when the white people stood up,
So it was just universal. And they gave us standing ovation.
This has legs.
It was universal. It was a universal experience, just full of humanity.
Yes.
And they stood and they stood. And that was so amazing. But I hadn't been in a theater that large with audiences since COVID.
Yeah.
And the feeling of that shared experience, that was the first time I felt it. It was priceless. And it has gone on through Martha's Vineyard, all around the country. People really enjoyed sharing this movie communally.
Yes. No, there's nothing like the emotional experience of seeing a movie like this with an audience. So, a few questions, if anybody has some questions. Raise your hand.
Right here.
You both addressed my point, that I was going to say that I enjoyed this movie on many levels, and one of which was that this wasn't a movie about Black people. It was a movie about people who happen to be Black. And I just thought it was just an amazing job.
There's a couple down here. All right.
I'm Sonia Jenkins. I'm an independent filmmaker. Just had my film in 2019, my first film. So it's on Amazon Prime. But anyway, this film was phenomenal. Lynn Whitfield, I worked with her background on Greenleaf in Atlanta. I've been knowing her for years, red carpets. And my mother passed away. And I didn't think I would be able to get through this movie because I didn't know where it was going. But the deer. I've seen things come alive through grief and signs, and I just want to know from you, as the writer-director, what was this deer? The meaning, because it was never spoken, and some things are never spoken, but they mean so much.
So, Roger Ebert said that cinema is an empathy driving machine, right? So, and I teach screenwriting as well. So the idea of the deer was a metaphor and a visual symbol of an emotional journey that Paula was going through. And I just want to do that because that's what I teach. And I'm like, I'd love to see us using imagery in a cinematic way to tell stories in the way that the deer was used. So every time we saw the deer, there was a connection to how Paula felt because she was really seeing her own mortality.
Yes.
I really loved the movie. I wanted to ask you, there was a place in the middle of the movie where you have kind of a collage of some of the key events that happened up until then. And at first I thought, oh no, it's over. And I didn't, no, it couldn't be. But I wondered, how did you decide to do that and pick the timing of where was the best place to do it and what to put in the collage?
So that was a montage with Aretha Franklin's Darkening of the Street? Possibly? Yeah, I think you're talking about the montage.
I'm sorry.
Where every character is grappling
Oh,
with an issue.
Yes, the yoga.
Yes.
Yes.
So it was the calm before the storm, and it was an idea to bring everybody together, even though they were all very separate. And you can do that through montage, and it's just a powerful tool to use to collapse storytelling, and yet at the same time reveal characters. So that was why I wanted to do it, and I love that song by Aretha Franklin. So all the Aretha Franklin music was kind of written into the script as I was writing it. I'm from Detroit. So I saw that, Red Wings, and I just wanted to pay homage to Aretha, and I just feel like her songs are so expressive, and I wrote it into the script. This is a low-budget indie film, like, we could not necessarily afford Aretha, but my husband was like, we're going to write it into the budget, and we are going to get these Aretha Franklin songs. And we did. And that means everything to me because nobody called me when they did the Aretha Franklin biopic. And I would have loved to have had a shot at that. But this is my way of just paying homage to legend.
You know, it's so, I didn't even realize that was a montage in the middle of but it reminded me so much of family holidays. When all the family gets together and there's been an argument or somebody announced that they're getting married or things happen, and then you go back to your own bedroom or, to wherever you're staying, and you're taking in the day and how you felt about it. And it was such a familial kind of approach, but when you don't see them, on their own, how you deal with what happens during the day and processing of things. And it was that solitude of each character that I found very effective, but I never thought of it quite the way she asked it.
It was a terrific movie. I thought the writing and the acting were just spectacular, and the way the actors played off one another. It was a long movie, but at no point did I say, why isn't it over yet? Why don't they conclude it? I like just the way it kept folding. It unfolded beautifully. You sort of answered my question. I was going to ask about the songs in the movie. I thought they were very, very effective. They came in at the right time. There were several songs that I recognized by other artists, and I heard these versions and said, wow, that's spectacular. So maybe you could tell us a little bit more about the music?
Well, the publishers for Aretha Franklin, there were originally 7 songs written into the movie, and they were like, we're not giving you 7 Aretha Franklin songs, because you're gonna make a soundtrack that's Aretha Franklin, and you don't have the budget to do that. So we'll give you 3 songs. So we ended up getting 4. So then I had to make up for the deficit of the other 3 songs. So you'll hear like a Staple Singers song, Staple Singers, The Weight. Yes, I wanted the Aretha Franklin version of The Weight, but they weren't going to give me that. But we were still in the same zone and era, so that's who you heard. And another singer that you heard singing the Albany Road theme song, it was written by Leon Lacey. Where are you? Stand up, Leon. And sung by Grace Gibson, who's standing right there. They co-written by Grace Gibson, and Grace just happens to be Lynn's daughter. So it was just a creative, volcano happening in every area of the storytelling. So, and Leon's my composer, and the reason why I love the way Leon composes, he used to be minister of music at West Angeles Church of God in Christ. That's a huge church. But he also does music for Beyonce and Janet Jackson. So he just has this kind of ear that was cultivated in the church and then magnified in the world. And I just knew he had the heart to get that kind of sound that's both soulful and spiritual.
Just a couple more here.
Over here?
Okay.
Hi, Ms. Swanson. I'm David Barbier. I actually worked with Mr. Swanson at UTV Productions, so this feels like a full circle moment. I found myself, when watching this film, caressed. There was something about seeing that Black love on screen, but it wasn't even like, I think subconsciously watching Black people just get to be in love, and to just watch that play out was, I think, cathartic for me, so thank you for that. Earlier you mentioned how in our writing and storytelling, sometimes you just need to let the scene breathe. Could you talk more about that and how you got to a place where you felt like this needs to breathe a little bit more?
So there's the written word, right? And you have ideas in your head as to how this plays out in the writing. And then when you hand it off to actors, there's a new creation that's happening that as directors, we have to mind, you know? So it's like, I wish I could take credit for the brilliance that's Lynn Whitfield, but a lot of times, like, it's really just watching a master class, and, you know, and I'm just kind of shaping it, but I'm capturing moments that they're giving as they're processing through the work.
Yes. If you notice, a lot of times it was just people shooting looks at each other. That took time. That takes a lot of time that you linger with the actors, and she edited, curated what those communications, nonverbal communications were, all around the table. You know, there were always people thinking things that weren't being said, but it gave you more clues to what those people were feeling. That's the kind of space that we were allowed, which is such a luxury. It's like caviar with all the fixings. You know, just to have that time to be with a character and to communicate, nonverbal communication, which we do. So how often is it, it's not what we say, it's what we don't say. We're saying one thing out of our mouths, but what we're really feeling and thinking has nothing to do with what's being said. Oftentimes words are just the things we're comfortable to share when we're not comfortable to share thoughts, you know? And so it's just such a, as I said, a luxury to be able to play in the sandbox that way.
And I'm always looking for subtext. So it's like the words, it's just a surfacey part of it sometimes. It's like, what are they really saying is what I'm always kind of looking for. And I just think it should not be that novel to you to feel that way about storytelling, because I felt this way watching the works of one of my favorite directors, which is James L. Brooks. And when I saw Broadcast News and Terms of Endearment, it just blew my mind that people could just spew emotions in the way that James L. Brooks displayed it. And I just wondered, like, why can't we do this? I've always been challenged in that way. And turns out we do this too in real life. It's just capturing it in this cinematic format in a way that feels real. So let's normalize that so it doesn't feel foreign to you.
Hi, my name is Roderick. Christine, I met you and your husband at a previous screening, and some of the other cast members were there, but Lynn, you weren't there, and I just wanted to personally tell you that I thought your performance was Oscar worthy.
Can you say that again? Say that again. Say that again.
Lynn Whitfield, I thought your performance was Oscar worthy.
There's not an emotion that she
So
cannot
very
play in this movie. And let's not oversimplify the work that she's doing, because sometimes it's comedic, you know, somebody, a friend of mine told me, like, Lynn Whitfield in this movie was doing legacy work. And I'm like, what? Wait, what does that mean? She's like, the work that she was doing here will make everybody go back and look at her whole body of work, because they will remember how brilliant she is because of what she did in this movie. Right? And listen, I'm just bringing up an example that if Meryl Streep did the same thing that Lynn Whitfield did in this movie, people would already be throwing Oscar talk her way. This is a smaller, independent film, but her work is no less worthy than any of the bigger films that the Hollywood studios put out. I appreciate you saying that, and we should keep talking in that way about this performance, which will go down in perpetuity as one of the best performances ever. Thank you.
Spoken by Keith David, my favorite TV husband in the world, and brilliant actor.
Did you have a question?
I didn't have a question, I had a comment to say, there's good theater, there's bad theater, and there's important. This to me comes in the realm of importance because of all the reasons that you just stated. But chiefly, what a wonderful ensemble piece. I don't know how you did it. It was in the words. It was on the page. But the way you did allow each person to breathe, each moment to breathe, So I never felt bombarded. I never felt lectured. I felt such a, I just felt like I was in the presence of life. I know when I'm in the presence of something beautiful. And from the beginning until the very end, that last moment, I was in the presence of something beautiful. There was something that was going on that compelled me to stay here, to stay awake. You know, I mean, I wanted to see what happened next with everybody. And how you got, it was tasty and tasteful. You know, I mean, nobody, everybody was in a wonderful balance. And so I got not just story, I got story. And you don't see that every day, Chauncey.
Thank you.
Okay, it's so hard to follow King David, so I have a couple questions. One for Christine. You had a lot of emotions going on in the film. I felt like some parts were even my life. Even when Lynn is in the car with Renee, through the whole time, it was me and my godmother, like just at it, you know? And I could see all these emotions and like when she's dying, I'm holding my own father's hand. Like, so, kudos to you for having so many emotions up and down. I'm like this, and then I'm laughing, tears coming out of my eyes with laughter. That's amazing to be able to tell a story like you told, and I pray that you guys get all the Oscar nominations that you get. But my question is, because this is faith-based, not faith-based, were there any miracles that happened on the set that you can say, if it were not for the grace of God, that wouldn't have happened?
For sure. I keep telling Lynn the fact that she's in this movie, despite my silliness, is nothing short of God orchestrating Lynn being in this movie, because what she has taught us, just working beside her, has been like a lesson, and in understanding what legacy means, in understanding what greatness looks like, in understanding what hard work looks like, and just learning that. I'm still learning that, but to learn from the greats is a privilege. So making a movie is hard, okay? Making a good movie is warfare. Making a great movie is nothing short of a miracle.
Yes.
So yes, I
And
have
there-
experienced
There
miracles.
were simple little things, like we were standing in the house, in the cabin, and Christine was looking around and said, God, this set is amazing, and we were still getting to know each other. She says, yes, but we need some black art, some art, the subject matter that is, and so she said, and I haven't found anything, I haven't found the right. So my friend Rhonda Brown, I said, well, let me call Rhonda. And Rhonda was right there in Chicago, picked up the phone, and this is hard for real fine art, right? I picked up the phone, I said, Rhonda, we need some paintings down here. She said, really? Oh, that's exciting. Let me see what I have. And then she called a soror that they knew mutually, and she drove the paintings from Chicago down to Champaign. And come to find out, this was legacy for Rhonda because her father's paintings were in Waiting to Exhale. And so it meant a lot to her to have a film and a movie. So things like that just happen, that you'd be going through all kinds of, agreements and talking to lawyers and how will it be used and the licensing and this. we had paintings the next day. And they became like so important in the movie. Gave it dimension, you know, to me, visually. So little things like that happened often.
Well, speaking of little things, your face looks amazing. We were wondering, what do you use? I'm glad we're-
Well, you know, of course well, now what do you want me to say? Am I doing an advertisement? No, but really, first of all, faith-based, it's a God thing to not let stress, you know, be there, you know, to not wear things on my face. We did do Sherry Shepherd this morning, so I have been made up all day long, made up for blood. And then there's a few things that the concealers that I love. There's a soft focus that really helps things out. That is, you know, by, okay girl, Black Radiance. But yes, soft focus and a lipstick that I use, but really, you know, it's the exfoliating and, you know, and not allowing things to harden your heart and your spirit. Therefore, it is all in your face, you know.
She walks this, she lives this, we see it.
So Lynn, I have a question for you. You've been, you know, working in the film and television for a very long time, and I'm sure mostly with male directors. What's the difference working with an outstanding female woman director like Christine?
Well, here's the thing. Now, I'm not going to say that this is gender-based, right? Because I've had my experience on all sides, but working with a secure woman, someone who loves collaboration and really knows what she's doing, has a vision, it was so very comfortable because she's extremely generous, extremely even-tempered, and therefore creates an environment on the set where everyone can take a chance, you know? It's okay to take chances. You know, you don't feel silly. You know, she'll catch you if you fall, if you make a mistake. So I would say the most important part is to have creative vision and security, a self-assuredness in what you're doing. That nobody was functioning on this set, particularly at the top of the ticket, our director, with any kind of insecurity or fear. She's fearless. She was out there in that snow, like just, like she loved it. She absolutely loved all that rugged rough. I was like, girl, do you want to sit down or aren't you freezing? She was born to do this. I can tell you that, you know, when someone is born to do something and she is most alive and nothing scares her. We had all kinds of problems. And she never was afraid of it all. I never heard you raise your voice. Did you?
Not at you.
I never heard you raise your voice to any cast member about anything.
No.
There were a few other things. Well, God, mediocrity is like that. Sometimes it just gets under your skin. But no, she's very even-tempered and very secure. Not every woman director is like that. I'm not going to say that is just, but a very secure creator. I would call her a creator.
Well, I want to thank both Christine and Lynn for this discussion, and I think everybody really enjoyed the movie. Good luck with it.
We'll stay for this long talk back. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you.
That's that black girl right.